TLDL, I talked about how sometimes people lie, and is it so wrong if people lie to encourage you? Although I swore that I would never lie when I was however many years old, I just don't do it. Regardless of the reason, I thought about tactical mistruths a little bit more. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that, mostly because it's a thought that came up into my head a few days ago. It's been some more days now, so about a week or two ago now. And I also probably haven't hit time. This is for last episode, but yeah. Firstly, school. In school, they kind of sometimes lie to you. They'll teach you a piece of the picture or give you a part of the picture, but then you go up a few grades and your teacher says, "Remember when they taught you that?" Yeah, that wasn't true. And this isn't malicious. They're not feeding children incorrect information for fun. That's what news outlets do. But for example, the ideal gas law: pressure times volume equals moles times ideal gas constant times temperature. So PIV nerd, if you are into STEM, you know that PV equals nRT. But anyways, this law is, in school they'll teach you that it always works, and that's why it's a law, because it's supposed to always work, and it does, really, honestly. Except for when it doesn't. When you go to really, really, really high temperatures, or I also believe really, really, really cold temperatures, when you get to like extreme edge cases, it falls apart. In school, they'll teach you this always works, and it works usually, like I said, but it does fall apart in those edge cases. And if you go to college and you study the edge cases, they'll tell you, all right, so yeah, that doesn't exactly work anymore. And the general information is good. For example, meditation research. We can also, we see this in research sometimes. When we want to study something that has a lot of nuances or a lot of different variations, and we want to create a standardized method so that we can do the research. For example, meditation research goes through this pretty hard. There are hundreds of different meditation techniques. And one of the reasons is that different techniques work for different people, because different people have different minds. And back when they were making meditation in the yogic days and back in the spiritual days, when people ate out of wooden bowls and died on the streets, back in those days when they were figuring all of this out, and they learned different people's brains work differently, and so they made different meditation techniques so that everyone could meditate in a way that worked best for them. And so they did that, and where was I? You can't research hundreds of meditation techniques, though, right? That's a lot of research. You want to research meditation. So you look at all the different techniques, you find the commonalities, and find one meditation that encompasses what they find meditation to be, they being the researchers. In the West, so here in America, Canada, etc., they found that mindfulness meditation encapsulate a lot of the meditation practices, and that's why they use that one. So most of the research papers you read are going to be how mindfulness meditation affects X, Y, or Z. And it happens. We could compare this to, say, studying a diet of potatoes, noodles, and rice. If we were to do that, we would see that all of these foods are carbohydrates, and the study would be geared towards looking at the carbohydrates rather than each individual food and how it works. And so this happens. Sometimes we generalize things. And so the last thing is whether this should or shouldn't be done. Well, it is kind of useful. It's a lot more efficient to generalize things and get a good enough idea to learn about something. It's probably more useful to make a gas law that works for 99.9% of gases, rather than fixating on those edge cases at first and then make a law for each gas. That's not efficient. But I think we would be remiss to completely neglect the flavors of these things. The specificities are important, but I always keep in mind that when I'm reading a paper on meditation that they say it wasn't effective for X amount of people, I'm not surprised. But I do wish scientists understood that when they study meditation and they use a single form of meditation, of course you're going to have skewed results. Someone suffering from PTSD is going to be helped by a meditation that helps depression. Quite the opposite, actually. Focusing practices that help depression actually bring up a lot of negative memories and traumas in the PTSD patient. And so rather, for PTSD, grounding meditations are much more effective at helping them. And they might be less effective at helping a depressed person because the issues and the problems of their minds are very different. And so the meditations they use to work on those issues and ailments are going to be very different. And one of the reasons you might see meditation is, quote, mostly effective, end quote, in science is because, especially as you grow the population for the sample size, not everyone is going to react the same to a single meditation practice. And so it's not that the results show that meditation itself doesn't work. It's the kind of meditation they're studying that is yielding those results. Overall, simplification and generalization are useful and therefore necessary. But it's important to keep an open mind and understand that life is a lot more nuanced than we usually take it for. It's why there's a difference between efficacy and effectiveness.